Well, here we are again. This one's coming out a bit later than usual. Couldn't be helped. I was expecting, honestly, to have more trouble with this section, but no. I mean, it's towards the end where we're going to start really running into, like, a lot of collectibles that have to be collected at around the same time. Before I forget, I also noticed that every Metroid game that I've done an LP of, which is basically all the 2D installments, has finished up at 7 videos in length. Now, that wasn't a goal, that just sort of happened, and I'm curious to see if it happens here as well. But I have a suspicion this might run to 8 videos unless I perhaps deliberately sculpt it into the length of 7. The interesting part is that the footage that still requires review for the latter portion of this game is actually still 2 hours long, which, of course, is beyond the actual completion time. I don't understand because I know that I paused frequently to check the guide, and I know that I made a few flubs, but I don't know where that extra, like, 11 minutes went in the run. It should have been finished in time. And then I wouldn't need to do this. Granted, that run was also very jilted, lots of jump cuts. It wasn't grand. I mean, I have the added displeasure that the next section still requires editing. The actual play footage still requires recording. And, of course, then there's the post-commentary that needs to be done. And the weekend's coming up, so I have some Gundam work to do as well. I mean, here's the problem. You don't want to sort of let the burnout win, because it's a lot easier to slide down that slope than to drag yourself back up. You know, like Max Payne said, the genius of the hole. No matter how long you spend trying to drag yourself up out of it, you can always fall back down in an instant. But at the same time, it is extremely hot. It's humid, too. Like, very humid. And I am just having the least pleasant time trying to cope with that, everything else I have to do, and this. So it is becoming something of a misery. That is unfortunate. I mean, because the logic for people who don't actually make Let's Plays is the fact that where's the difficulty, right? You just play games and talk. Playing games is meant to be entertaining, it's meant to be fun. And talking is not necessarily difficult. However, you know, that's fine if you're going to post whenever. If you want to keep to something vaguely resembling a schedule, produce a more regular product, it's not quite so easy. There's also the fact that, I mean, yes, playing games is fun, but we also have perhaps a notion of, you know, we play games when we want to play games. And we play what we want to play when we want to play it. When you're trying to create it in the sense of, like I said, something like this, something that has more structure to it, it's not quite so laissez-faire. Or laissez-faire, I don't know how to pronounce it, it's French. I'm not even sure that'd be the right term. I think laissez-faire is like hands-off. I mean, the common vernacular now would be something like super casual. So, this particular play session was interesting because it was late at night. I was still as miserable then as I am now recording this because of the environment just being horrible, just terrible. But I was also like, I had like a brain fog from exhaustion. I was just like, you know, can't think. And yet I still got through this, which is why I made the point that it wasn't actually so bad as I thought it would be. We have a section coming up that's going to be a bit more difficult because it's going to involve a return to this, coupled with a exploration of additional sectors in the main deck, and then also the tropical environment, and 2 boss fights. So it's going to be one of the longer videos and one of the longer sections, and it's going to be difficult. One might imagine that that was the one that should have aired late, because... Here's the thing, though. I mean, I can't judge, per se, what the viewership wants, because I don't have that rapport with my viewers, so I'm not certain what they want, and a number of logical voices have stated that, like, people aren't really waiting in the wings for the content that I create, so why bother myself with when it comes out and how often or how frequently? I think it comes down to that notion of... this is a bad metaphor to make, but I really don't have another one on my mind at the moment. The sort of notion of, like, dress for success, like, even if you're applying for, like, janitor at Walmart, you still want to look like you're bringing your A game, because that's what's gonna... You don't want to be like, oh, well, this is a small thing with a small audience, so I'm gonna conduct myself as such, because the thing is, people are generally looking for something with potential. You know, because I understand that now, especially, like, the long play or the let's play format has become a dying art, where the ones, you know, still making them en masse or regularly are those who have done so from the start, the big names. And, you know, people who are doing gameplay footage these days have all moved on to live streaming platforms, which I have technical and practical reasons why I don't do that. One of the technical issues is that my connection speed is not good enough to support anything of any decent quality. And the practical issue is that if you're going to live stream, then you have to be on streaming when your audience is on. And I've already fundamentally demonstrated the fact that I struggle to just, like, get stuff put together for a standing video. If I had to, like, be here at a set time to make the most of a live streaming format, it wouldn't happen. I don't go chasing waterfalls, stick with the rivers and streams that you're used to. Contrary to all the positive thinking malarkey would have you believe. I've always found that notion to be kind of ridiculous. I mean, for starters, humans have this thing called optimism bias, where we tend to think things will go better than they are likely to do, which is a dangerous thing, because people can end up making promises, making investments that they have no means of supporting. That's bad. But there's also the fact that it's not an issue of pessimism or optimism. We should seek an even keel. We should seek a balanced perspective. I mean, maybe that's just the Libra in me talking. So because this return to Pyro was a brief one, I, like, saved it on the monkey bars and then screwed myself because I thought I was going to fall off. This return to Pyro was a brief one. We don't even get any items this run. It's literally just get to the objective and then get out. I totally, like, botched the disintegrating platform with the gleamer on it. Like, in terms of grace and smoothness, this was a bad run, but with very few items that I had to worry about, it wasn't that bad in terms of, like, the memory, which was good, because, like I said, at the time I was really tired and having trouble just thinking. And I had to bait this thing out a second time, because I made an oopsie with the jump. This audio is also, like, 2 seconds desynced, either plus or minus, from the actual video. So if I'm saying something slightly before it happens or slightly after, that's why. Because, like I said, my editing program does not allow a tremendous amount of control in terms of where the audio cuts in. Because I could get it perfect in the edit mode, and when I look at the preview, it looks perfect. But it can actually shift around during the preview, which is a bad sign in and of itself. And then the sort of final product can be somewhere other than it was previewed to have been. And I mean, the thing is that, of course, the editing software I'm using is absolute garbage, but even if I was using a more quality product, there's no guarantee that things would work with a lot of cuts either. I mean, if you've seen Internet Historian's The Cost of Concordia, in the sort of expanded Q&A that he did for that, he highlighted the fact that his editing software, which is like a professional editing software, could not export that video project. What he had to do was full screen the preview and then record the full screen preview. Which sounds crazy, but I can totally see it. I mean, theoretically, I could do that here, but I don't know. Because that would lead to more editing. Because I'd have to start the recording and then full screen it, and then I'd have to cut off me starting it and full screening it. And that's the point of, like, that tiny scrap of production quality that kind of... Oh, you know, because I don't want to make it sound like I'm going pro with this, because, God, I'm not. I don't think I'd ever be able to either, because I don't bother myself a great deal with, like, avoiding copyright or vulgarity or anything like... And if I had to, I probably wouldn't be doing this at all. So this is a thoroughly unprofessional channel that produces content of a... I wouldn't say a professional grade, but maybe senior year or junior year if you're feeling, you know, less generous. I don't know. I make it. I try to make it something good. People watch it. Sometimes people don't watch it. It's here. And if you're here enjoying it, thank you for that. Thank you especially for those who actually apply the effort and remember to like the videos. It mimicked a crew member. Well, again, how is that? The ship's computer seems a bit dense. I mean, it mimicked Samus in the suit. She's human, so why is it odd that it would mimic a human, like a crew member? Oh, but they're bad at combat. And it's like, okay, granted. Yes, well, we'll find out later that SR-388 is crawling with X, and weirdly AM2R actually highlighted that point. Well, actually, that's weird. Because wasn't... Oh, no, I can't go into that because it's spoiler territory, but I'll try to stick a pin in that on top of all the other plates I'm spinning. Yeah, because AM2R had X all over, like, SR-388, or at least in that final area, like the Metroid nest, but they had crystallized, possibly as a form of self-preservation. Maybe they were trying to hide from the Metroids, because again, it was the Metroid nest. So naturally, if you're something that can be eaten by Metroids, or that they are even enthusiastic to consume, you're not gonna float around making yourself obvious. Yeah, that was the grand notion of the Metroids, is that, I mean, why would this species that was largely peaceful, the Chozo, choose to create one of the most dangerous bioweapons in the known universe? And it's like, well, they were created to deal with the X, which is probably the most dangerous organism in the universe. Except for all that Phazon-related stuff, you know. Because naturally, you have to up the ante even when it's a precursor that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yeah, it's on our elevator trip back down from the habitation deck that we actually get a look at Samus, how she's rendered in a drawn format in this suit, and I can sort of see perhaps how the suit coloring ended up looking wrong, because it's important to remember that pixel art is not just like throw a bunch of little blocks together. In order to create a sense of depth and shape, you need to use subtle variations in lighting and exaggerations and positioning in order to create a more elaborate image. And that's the point here, is that Samus, her character model, has a bunch of shading effects added to it. And I think the shading effects are what turn this yellow on red suit into something that looks like green on orange. Because the contrast is just extremely poor. Like, the red bleeds into the yellow and turns it kind of darker, because it's a dark red. And the yellow bleeds into the red, making it more orange. And it's just maybe a questionable render of how the character was meant to look. And we can already see our little friends in the other room. Now, I struggle with this room for some reason. Like, I have trouble sometimes figuring it out. But there we go. And that's why you need to go through the top doors for that missile tank, and then we take this back road where we got a bunch of these stupid head things again. And it's our old friends from Super Metroid. Including the hilarious and adorable addition of the fact that the Dacora's egg has hatched and now is a little baby bird that, like, skitters away. They even give it a unique sound effect. Like, that's adorable. Yeah, here we go. Like, that looks green on orange, but yet it's yellow on red. I mean, it's like a sickly green yellow on a red that's almost purple. It is just such a weird palette. Yeah, but it doesn't even look remotely like that. Oh my god, maybe I'm making too much of the Varia suit in this game, but it's weird, the inconsistency of its appearance. I mean, you look at the gravity suit later, and you look at it in the elevator ride, sort of, it looks the same between the two, but there's a weird disconnect between the pixel art of the Varia suit on Samus' sprite and how she looks in the still images during the elevator ride. Now, here's something I want to point out, is that coming up, we're going to have to go back to Arctic, ARC, to get another upgrade, in this case, the power bomb. When we go there, we've been to this data room before. We're going back to a data room that we literally just came out of, but ship's computer still locks you in the navigation room until you've spoken to him. Why? I mean, he tells us here, I think, that, like, you need to get the power bomb. So why even lock the player in that other data room or navigation room? No, it's the navigation room. Yeah, see right there. Power bomb data. Great. Go to Arc. Great. Just let me go there. I mean, he doesn't interrupt us in the mad dash for resetting the boiler controls, but yet he'll interrupt us going to a data room we've already been to before. This game has this game perhaps I think has a slight problem with sense of urgency, or rather lack of sense of urgency, just because of how long it takes for ship's computer to spool everything out. I mean, the developers didn't have to make it like one word every 0.75 of a second. Or no, not one word, one letter every 0.75 of a second. You could probably make it twice that fast and people could still follow. Besides, it's going to stay on the screen. Why not just have it... But But this is how it was set up. So I don't know if tomorrow's upload is going to be late as well. I can't do that on the weekend unless I interrupt or air at the same time as Gundam, which... Oh. I'm just... It's not an issue that I can't record. I'm just so much not in the mood, because I'm just so miserable right now, because of how hot and humid it is. I literally just don't... I don't feel like it. Well, I'll see you next time, and I hope I'll actually have something maybe on time to present when that time comes.